Hey, everybody. I am on the line right now with one of the most legendary people in tag team wrestling. When you think of tag teams, the golden era of wrestling, the 80s, you think of Demolition. I have one half of one of the greatest tag teams ever on the phone with me right now, Axe, Bill Eadie.
Powers of Pain are still good friends of ours. It's sad that Hawk and Animal aren't here, but, we never set out to copy them or mimic them. We set out to do the best that we could do with the characters.
Yeah, and, I know you get that comparison a lot about the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, the team, but I think for a lot of people, and I'll include myself in it, like, I didn't know who they were when I was growing up as a wrestling fan. Like, I grew up as a WWF fan, and I really resonated with Axe and Smash. So when that really came in, I think it like 1991 or 1992, like I was like, oh, cool. These guys are like Demolition. I didn't do the reverse. So
a lot of fans that talk to us make the same statement. They had fans. That's primarily where they were, and we have a lot of fans in the Northeast. And fortunately, when the WWF was making the national and international move, we were there. I think if the roles were reversed and the time was reversed, it would have been the same situation for us being down south, Midwest, and them being up there. So, they're a great team. It's nice to be compared.
And another thing to point out is many teams over the years have really tried to capture that attitude and really missed on it. I know they tried to do it with the Ascension in WWE. Like, they had their own idea, but then they started calling out the Road Warriors, calling out Demolition, and other guys have really tried to put their own spin on Demolition. But can you just talk about why, really the gimmick resonated and still does, and why it can't be replicated?
Well, I think that the music was a big part of it. Of course, the costumes and the paint. I think our performance in the ring was a major part of it, because we could, if you remember back, we could have matches with almost anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The big guys, the brawlers, the technical guys, the high flyers. And I think that the people realized, or at least I hope that they did, we were going to try to have the best. And Barry and I both went out with the attitude that we're going to try to have the best match on the card. Sometimes we were unsuccessful because there's a lot of good talent, but a lot of times I think that we walked out of the ring and we had a darn good match, and people wanted to work with us, where some of the other teams, they weren't so sure. They weren't, if they were going to get hurt or gobbled up or guzzled, or we tried to have a match with everybody.
Do you pay attention to the current product at all?
Unfortunately, I don't. I know a couple of the teams, but you know what? We were asked a number of times, and a lot of times on these virtual signings, what's the big difference now? I don't think that they have teams put together as teams. They have two individuals that they're waiting for a slot, and instead of putting them on the shelf, they just put them together, lump them together. And neither one of those guys really want to be in a team. They want to be an individual. And to be successful in a team, you can't be selfish. You can't be looking out for yourself. You got to be willing to sacrifice a little bit for the team. And nowadays, I mean, you get some teams that could possibly work, and for one reason or another, they break them up. And they push this one team, all of a sudden they break them up. Then they push another combination, they break them up. I don't think they have emphasis or desire to have a tag team division.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that point. And one other thing I wanted to point out is FTR. They were known as the Revival, but their new names in All Elite Wrestling are Dax and Cash, and it's in tribute to you and Smash. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts because I opened talking about teams trying to emulate you as far as like the face paint or some other kind of look, but how do you feel about a tribute in that way where it's not a direct copy and it's more of just kind of, tipping their cap to you, like that you meant something in their career?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's the first time I heard that, and I'm really normally I have a lot to say, but I'm at a search for words. I really appreciate that, and if you talk to them, I mean, I never get a chance to, neither Barry or I, unless it's at some kind of a convention. But if you're talking to them and that's truly the situation, please tell them thank you very much for us. I really do appreciate that. Tell them that we both appreciate that. That's a fine tribute because they're one of the teams. The young, but there's 4 or 5 teams that I know or have been around together for some time, and I honestly think that they are one of the few teams that work as a team. They remind me a lot of the Andersons and Arn and Tully as well. So they do a good job.
Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the end of Demolition's run in the WWF, and Crush came in. There's been a few stories about why they brought him in, and you were towards the end of your career, but if you had a say in it, like ideally, how would you have ended the group if you got one final run or like like some kind of say into either passing the torch or just ending the group? Have you ever thought about how you would do it?
The whole situation developed. I don't know if all the fans are aware, but I had been going back and forth to Japan as a Mass Superstar I probably made 40 trips, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks up to 8 weeks, and over there consumed a lot of shellfish and sushi, and I developed anaphylactic reaction to shellfish iodine, and I had been consuming. I was just before one of the WrestleManias, my wife and I went out and we had dinner, and I had shrimp for dinner, and had an allergic reaction and almost died. So I think that Vince in the office, fortunately we were popular, and I think that they didn't know what to do, and they start panicking. What they should have done was given me and Barry a month or 2 off. And by that time, I think it was 6 weeks, I had been cleared by the doctor here at Emory to resume activities. But they pushed the panic button and then contacted Crush and brought in substitute demolitions. I think that Neidhart, and, they'd have the Neidhart, the Anvil demolition. They just jumped the gun. I think that it would have settled down if we were, and Barry would have not have objected to a month or 2 off, because they were running us pretty ragged. And by that time, everything would have been okay. We could have continued to run. But once everything got in the swing, we couldn't keep up with it. And I don't know if we would have had another run or not, but I think that we could have continued. Just much like I think that they heard the fans cheering for us when we were heels, and they thought, well, these guys are getting cheered, we've got to make them baby faces. No, you don't. Control the fans and control the crowd. We could have been coming out of the heel locker room for another year and a half. There again, they jumped the gun. So, and they do that quite often. Not only in WWE, a lot of promoters, a lot of bookers do that. They listen to the fans, and instead of guiding the fans, they think that the fans are pushing them. So that's my take on that.
Do you have a favorite match or maybe matches that, really highlight who you were as a performer, or that really, capture the dynamic that you were trying to create with the team, whether it was you and Smash or even including when you guys were a trio?
Well, I don't have one. I think that it would be unfair in there. We had several good teams to work with. We had good matches with the Bulldogs. We had good matches with Martel and Tito. We had good matches with the Hart Foundation. A lot of those teams, how can you not have good matches with? And we were fortunate, and like you said earlier, that time frame, I really believe, with the exception of maybe Hogan, the tag teams drove the company. And there were so many good tag teams to work with. Brunzell and Brian Blair, Haku and Andre, Warlord and Barbarian. You can go on and on and on. The Rockers. I mean, for God's sakes, any one of them could have been a main event. Any one of them could have been champions. Then you got Tully and Arn came in later. So there were so many. It would be injustice. I think we had good matches with almost everybody we worked with, and that's not bragging. I just feel comfortable saying that.
No, I think in a way you can, but I know the Legion of Doom and the Hart Foundation get cited a lot, but I mean, personally speaking, the WrestleMania 6 match, even though it was not Andre's greatest work, you could tell he was on the decline, but that's one that I really remember from my childhood. Like, I remember getting the home video, and it still resonates as just something memorable, like the spectacle, the title match. And so I would throw that one in there too. But yeah, there's a lot of teams that, I mean, you could pick from 8 to 10 different teams that were there in that era. It was just such a deep roster.
And that's nice to know, isn't it? I mean, that's nice to know how packed that division was at that time.
I am going to close it out on this kind of a big picture philosophical question, but what do you want your legacy in wrestling to be?
Well, I just want everybody to think that, I was an honest guy. I never tried to cheat anybody or step on anybody's toes. I let my performance in the ring and my interviews set my characters, whether it was Mass Superstar, whether it was Axe. And I think that when you talk to the guys, I think that they realized, and they voiced to me quite often, that I worked hard in the ring, and I wasn't trying to kill or squash anybody. I was trying to make money and provide for my family.
Axe and Smash Demolition will be part of 80s Wrestling Con's virtual signing on November 16th. You can find out more information on how you can get your own personal items autographed, photos, all kinds of cool stuff. It's 80swrestlingcon.com. Bill, thanks very much for your time tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope all the fans take advantage of this situation, and hope after this COVID mess is over, we get to schmooze and talk and shake hands again. So I'm looking forward to those days.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.